bandcamp.com. We've got a few things here. I'm bringing 3 different things to the table this week. It's like I'm taking the place of boring Brown Braditich, and just bringing all sorts of things to the podcast.
Boring Brown Braditich can't come to the phone right now.
But Jeremy, start us off with some more discussion on Neon White, because you spoke about it last week.
I did.
Since then, I took your recommendation to heart. I picked it up. I've played it just a couple of hours. But what more do you have to say about Neon White this week, Jeremy?
I finished it.
Oh!
Yep. I've put in, I'm just going to double check how many hours I've put into Neon White, but it's a fucking lot. Because I not only have finished it, I've also aced every level.
For those that don't know, it's like you got bronze, silver, gold, and then ace.
Yes, and there's a skill. There's
standards.
There's a tier above that. There's a tier above ace.
Do you know what it is?
It's just it's not named. It's just like a red medal.
So I heard kind of funny talking about Neon White earlier today actually, and they were saying that there's a thing that pops up. Like, do you know how to get the red medal, or you're not sure?
I just assumed it was get there faster, is it not?
I've heard that you get a little emblem for if you had the world record on a level.
That's definitely not the case. Maybe
it's like not something that you've been.
I mean, like I'm in like the top 200 for a bunch of levels, but I'm not number one because I've got like a few red medals.
Okay. Fair enough.
Maybe it's like if you reached the top like percentile or something.
Yeah, or maybe it's like an author medal. Maybe you beat Ben's time.
Yeah, right. Maybe that'd be cool.
Trackmania does that, but that's their like ace medal is the author medal.
Yeah, right. So this is kind of my de facto review for it because I haven't written anything, but I've put together my final thoughts on it. I'm still playing it. I'm still going back and playing it.
You're never going to hear about Neon White ever again.
I mean, probably like I don't think I'm going to bring it up next week when I 100% the game.
Right.
There's not much more I can talk to this. I believe. So I've written some notes, just a brief little paragraph and a bit. Just to go through it, I've titled it Speedrun Heaven.
Cool, I like that.
Which is, I think, quite apt. As you know, you are doing speedruns in heaven, kind of. Not quite heaven, but you know, that's the goal. Look, having seen the main story and aced every level, I think I'm pretty comfortable giving this game a 9.5 out of 10.
Wowza.
I have no real complaints, really. I think that 95% of the levels are excellent. I don't think 100% of them are excellent, but I think 95% of them are really excellent.
Are any of the levels bad?
No, just
some of them are not terrific.
Yeah, some of them are like, yeah, that was fine, and I got the ace, and I don't really care much about this level to really bring down my time. But there are many, many levels in this game that I really love and really enjoy bringing down my time, finding those efficiencies, shaving a half a second off here, and doing so the process for me works as I will find an efficiency and I'll work to make that efficiency more efficient. But as I do that, more often than not, I will make a little inefficiency before and after it. And then it becomes a cascading, okay, well, let's then tighten that part up again while keeping this new efficiency I found tight to bring that time down even further. And then you find a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. This is a puzzle game in many aspects, right? This is like a puzzle game where you are managing the resource, you are managing the card resource, finding out where to slot those cards in to their little holes, and then
what?
You know, it's like finding the right shape for these things to go in. You know, finding the place where to use the cards for their maximum potential, whether it's using them as a gun or burning them for their ability. Right? This is almost more than a first-person shooting game. It is a puzzle game, I think. It is all about just finding the exact right combination. Speedrunning feels exhilarating, uncomplicated, intelligent, and perfect. There is such a little barrier. So yes, such a small barrier to getting enjoyment out of speedrunning in this game, because it is. I think this is actually not too dissimilar to actual speedrunning in terms of it's about thinking things in different ways. It's about potentially breaking the sequence. If you can skip a section, then you're going to be rewarded with a much lower time. It is about using the cards in as many ways as you think you can use them to maximize your speed to, like, you know, because it's you want to keep your maximum speed up as quickly as you can while doing the bare minimum to get by, right? So it is quite close to speedrunning you might see at AGDQ. Speaking of, that's happening at the moment, and I didn't check if Neon White is on there, but I really hope it is. It might be too soon. It might be just too soon because they probably organized it months in advance.
SGDQ at the moment, right?
Yes, it is. First in-person one in a very long time.
Oh, is it actually?
Yep.
No way.
Which is exciting.
Kind of scary.
I'm really excited for it because, like, GDQ has got such a vibe to it. It's got such a feeling to having the audience live in person. Like,
yeah. Like, I think in terms of an event, it's the best thing for it. But you know.
Oh yeah.
It's it's like anything at the moment. It's like it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Neon White is not here. I just Control F'd it and can't see it.
Yeah, that's not surprising. It's a bit early.
I think submissions for this closed like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
SGDQ.
That was my thinking too. The 5% of levels that I don't think are excellent are still really good levels, but a lot of them sort of do things that are just not quite so fun to redo over and over again. For example, there are some levels where there's a lot of falling or a lot of like almost waiting around a little bit. And part of that is like maybe I'm not thinking in the right way to get to the end faster, but I think that specifically the levels where you're going down like down vertically for a majority of it, there's a lot of gliding when there's no stomp card available. And that's not quite as fun because there's a level of, the minimum this is gonna take is my fall speed, which is it's just not as fun to revisit.
It's pretty slow. You float down.
Yeah. The story ended up being really fun. What I was thinking was probably the weakest part of the game is really not very weak at all. It ended up being, as opposed to a neutral, which is what I was feeling about it last week, it has now come around to being a positive for the game. I'm glad the story is in it. I enjoyed the characters quite a lot. The character dynamics and moments really shined towards the end. There's a lot of really nice moments between these characters. Not nice as in like they're happy moments, but like there were some really interesting perspectives that there's a lot of nuance to the story towards the end, which is good because at the beginning it's a very anime style story. Everything's very over the top. It's like,
what the
right. And they still have that, but they have some more grounded moments in the story later on. That was it caught me off guard. Frankly, it was good to see. I'm glad it was there. And I felt like it helped elevate the story in its entirety to have these genuine, thoughtful moments as opposed to a lot of like intense visceral reactions 100% of the time, but while still being in character. As well as I think you don't quite get it in the first few chapters of the game because it seems so far away relative to where you are, but the clock counting down at the end of every chapter like really starts to become kind of like an intense thing. Like it feels like this impending thing that you got to work against, which really like it helped the story. It's a really good choice to have that. I love impending time in a story like we got to do this before XYZ because otherwise nothing will work, right? Like the create stakes. Of course, we know this, but the art direction is completely nuts. Like it is just like so fucking good. The character design is really good. The character design is striking. The level design is like so like the level design is so good, but it's like lifted all the way up with this really like extravagant, regal like design of the world. But like later on, it's not all like that. Like they change the style of the levels that you're in, so you feel like you're in different locations. It's not just
it's sort of like going through not Abstergo, going through Aperture Labs.
Not quite. No, it's more biblical than that. Like you're going to. I won't spoil like
I just
where
meant
it
how
is,
like Aperture is so like pristine, and then you get towards the end of that game and you start breaking through, and all of a sudden you're using those same portal mechanics inside of a different setting to what you had been before.
Yeah, kind of. There are some areas which do feel a lot more broken down, similar to where like Aperture does in Portal 2. But yeah, you start to see some less perfect areas that still feel like they're in the same world, and are really interesting to be in. And there's one level in particular which is a non-combat level, which is like got this really like kind of like freaky, eerie, oppressive music, and there's like this big building at the end, and there's something inside of it that's very important, which I'm not going to spoil what it is. But the moment you step foot into the building, like the music cuts.
Oh.
And it like and you see like this like horrific thing inside the building, and it's like fuck, like hey, like you nailed that, like you got me. Which was really cool. There's also a part in the game pretty early on where White is talking to Neon Yellow, and he specifically says the phrase, "The vibes are immaculate," when talking about the area that he's in, and I just kind of think that's the perfect descriptor for the whole game. The vibes, like they are immaculate in this game. Everything about it just fucking hits. It all comes together.
Immaculate.
This fucking crescendo of reflective heaven. Like it's fucking tight. And finally, I just think like the leaderboards are just so good to have there for every single level. The idea of not being able to see the leaderboard until you get an ace score is really intelligent, because it's like, don't even worry about it until you get this score, right? But like the
global leaderboard, right?
Any leaderboards, I believe. I'm
pretty sure I could see the friend ones prior.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right. But the global leaderboard not showing up until you get aces, very intelligent, because why would you?
Can I just jump on that? Sorry to derail you.
Go for it.
Do you get any sort of motivation from the global leaderboards in this game and in general?
Or when I'm in the top 200, I do.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like I always find a global leaderboard is so like contextless, if you know what I mean. Like,
yes.
It's like, oh, you're 1000th. It's like, okay. I don't know how far or low that is. I don't know how much more work it's going to take. I don't know how many people on a Steam leaderboard list have cheated to get like 0.1 seconds. Like
there are plenty of those. Not as many in the early levels, thankfully. So I think they're at least actively looking at them to try and keep them legitimate as possible. The way I think about global leaderboards is, if I am, say, in, let's say, 1,500th place, which is not very close to the top, I will then look at one and see the actual time difference between me and them. Because if the time difference is like 6 seconds, then there's a bit that I'm missing.
Right. Yes, totally.
There's
a skip, there's a optimization.
Yes. But if there is, say, a 10th of a second difference, then it's all about me getting better. Right? It's all about what can I do that they haven't thought of. Mm-hmm. That's where the puzzle is for me. So I think that looking at the 5 above and 5 below you for a global leaderboard is useless. But looking at 300 above, 300 below, not even 300 below, 300 above, that is when it's useful to see, like, okay, like what is that, like what is actually splitting us? And if it's not a lot, then I can reach it. But if it is a lot, then I'm missing something, and what am I missing?
Right. Sure. Okay, cool.
I think the only thing that this game is missing for me personally is a way to compete with my friends more directly. And I don't mean like play in the same instance, but like I either want to see either their ghost, or I want to see maybe... So Astrobot has got this really great feature where if you do the speedrunning levels in the PS5 Astrobot game and you beat someone's score, you get a notification on your console to say, hey, that motherfucker went faster than you. And then
and you can launch directly into the app.
Click of a button, you're in the level, right? Like, which is fucking nuts. Now, there's a lot of levels in this game. I think there's probably 130, maybe more.
Which is ridiculous, especially considering how high quality they are based on your judgment on them.
Yeah, it's nuts. Probably about 110 or 115 have got leaderboards. Some of them don't, because some of them are not
like story levels.
Yeah. I want a way to get a notification when it's Ollie. It's just Ollie at the moment. Beats my score. Because I spent an entire play session beating every single one of his scores. I went through meticulously into every single level, checked the score. If he had a faster time than me, then I stayed in that level until I beat him. And that includes the level... I
pulled this up before, Jeremy. There's a bit before where you said, my hand fucking hurts. I played this level for about 90 minutes with a screenshot. And the level... it's a 9-second level. Ollie's got 9.042, and then you brought it down to 8.963, and you worked on that for 90 minutes.
I cannot begin to tell you how happy I was. What time was that message, Kerry? Is there a
it doesn't tell me off the bat.
Because I spent... That was the final thing I did before I turned off my computer that day, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That was painful. Like I came away
quarter to midnight.
You know, really good use of my time. Yeah, that was a lot. That was a fucking lot of work. I brought it down like a ton. Like, sorry, what were the two times?
It was 9.0 something. And you brought it to 8.963.
Hell yeah.
You shaved off like, we're talking like tenths of a second.
Because I got two. I got close to his score, and I was 2/100ths of a second below him.
Whoa!
And I was furious.
Yes.
Like this game is all about like, you know, ascending to heaven and stuff and being chosen by angels. Like I wanted to kill God when that happened. The fire of the devil flowed through me, and I speed ran as fast and as hard as I fucking could.
Mm-hmm. You played the best neon white of your life.
Oh, yeah.
You see, that's funny. If I'd been in that same situation, I think I would have been annoyed, but if it had taken every part of me to get that close, I don't know if I would have been able to keep going. Because we had that moment when I was playing through the first chapter, and because it had been a while since you and Ollie had been playing the first chapter, I could
beat a bunch of my times.
I could bop a lot of your times at that point because neither of you had really optimized them super hard.
No,
and so that was good for me. That was an achievable challenge. I could work on them, and then I got to 110, which is the longest level of the chapter, and I was working to get past. I think it was your score. It was your score. I think Ollie had a 28 and you had like a 26.
Yeah.
And I was working it for about 25 minutes and seeing the thing go, and I'm watching it. I'm like, hang on, that says 24 now. And I go to the Discord. I'm like, did you just bop your own time by like so much? And I was really struggling to get to where you were.
And then what did I say? And I brought it down by like 6 seconds or something.
Eventually, yeah. I said, whoa, did you just get that 25 on 110? And then I'm like, how did you do it? I was desperately trying to reach your 25, and you went and got a 24, you bastard. And I said, I really don't know where you're finding those extra 2 seconds. Well done. And for that, I had to give up at that point because it's like, I don't think I'm getting anywhere here. I was just doing it again and again.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do.
I don't think you should care about speedrunning. Like, I don't think you should
Like
care
that
about
hard.
Well, like, I don't think you should be that competitive until you beat, like, let's say 4 chapters, I think. Go through them, get a bunch of golds, get a bunch of aces, get a real feel for the mechanics, and then go back to the levels that you really enjoyed.
Right.
And then learn those paths, learn the mechanics. Because I like beat the game and went back and got a bunch of aces, and I'm like still learning things. Like I'm still learning.
Okay.
Like the purple one, for example, that shoots out the bomb that explodes.
Yeah.
I'm still learning the best way to launch myself further out of those bombs.
That one is weird. I didn't feel comfortable like using that launch that much, honestly.
Yeah, and like I'm still learning better and better ways to use it, but it's fun. Yeah, this is currently my game of the year.
Wow. I'm sorry, Vampire Survivors.
I know. I'm sorry, Elden Ring.
I don't think Elden Ring was ever going to make the top of your list this year.
Oh, with everything else falling out of this year, I was like, it's still mine.
I mean, from the week after we got it, from the week after you started playing it, thinking of how you've been feeling about that game and interacting with it since from that point, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's...
Oh, I still really like that game. I just don't love it. I just really like it.
Yeah, I get that. It's interesting. I feel like Elden Ring is maybe the best game this year, but maybe it's not my favorite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know. I do know exactly what you mean.
It's funny. It is masterful, but it is not. It doesn't sit there with. It's not.
It hasn't hit.
Yeah.
It hit at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it hasn't. It doesn't stayed.
It's fascinating. That'll be interesting to see if that feeling crystallizes in the next 6 months. Yeah, it's a good point with Neon White, with just getting some good times and then moving on, because like it was good going through bopping your times at that point when they weren't optimized. But when you blew me out of the water on that last mission, and I'd been going over and over it for ages, and I went over and over it for ages more, and I just couldn't move the needle.
Yeah.
I put it down and made dinner, and I haven't been back to the game since. So, like, that says something. I mean, I've also been trying to do a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a good point. And I have been thinking to myself, I do want to play it. I was enjoying just discovering it and learning each level and finding the presents and all that. So there is still plenty to enjoy.
I still want the decided, like, hey, these are the 10 best levels. These are the ones you should speedrun against your friends. Like, I want like that in a playlist almost. I want like 10 of the 10 best levels that you can compete with without having to go through, like, go to the campaign and then go to the 13 sub chapters and then have a look at the levels inside of that.
Check each time.
Yeah, like I want like these are the 10 kind of ultimate levels.
Do you think we'll get DLC?
So I was reading an interview with Ben Esposito on GoombaStomp.com.
Heck, man, he sure do.
Which is a funny name. I think it was Goomba Stomp. Which is a website that I've never heard of before today, but I think that's a good name for a website. It's Nintendo news. Anyway, I don't know if we'll get DLC. As far as I'm aware, the studio that worked on this with Ben Esposito, it was just like a one-time thing.
Oh, they're done now?
Yeah, like right. the job is done, the game is out. But I think that this game is popular enough that, like, never say never. I think the property is cool and like the property is quite popular. I think he wants to do an anime with it. Turns out Ben Esposito does a lot of things. He does like DJing as well, and like
really,
yeah, he does like tons of jobs.
So he's one of those people.
Yeah, one of those fucking talented people, huh?
He's like an Alana.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm excited to get back to it. How much more do you think you're going to revisit and improve and bop?
So currently, I've beaten the story. There is a way to get the ending of the game, and there's like a true ending for 100%ing the game. So I'm currently going back, getting all the presents, going through all of the side missions, and then I will go back, do the final ending, and I reckon that's where I'll call it, aside from when I get added in Discord from Ollie or someone being like, hey, I beat your time.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can do that. At least sometimes. I'm hoping I can have that joy.